University of Virginia, they didn't have any black faculty members down there, and they didn't have any fraternities, black fraternities down there. And so I had to go down there, and they only accepted blacks provided they had the graduate records exam 1,000 or better. And there were several of us went down, even some from Virginia State University, some of the faculty members, they went down too. But I was the only one in that bunch of the 5 that went down that made it. And so I completed my doctorate at University of Virginia. And they had about 80 graduates in the doctoral class that year. And I was the only black dot in there. Only black out of them there down at University of Virginia. And of course, they treat you that just sort of like they did at West Point. They didn't speak to you. You get up in the morning, we got a table with 10 people or 8 to 10 people around a table, round table, and they said, "Good morning, gentlemen." No one said anything. They don't talk to you at all while you're there. Plus the fact, in all of our classes, you know, they have the honor system there. If someone say that you're cheating or cribbing, then they not only kick you out of school, but it goes on your record and you will not be able to enter another college or university. So what I did is sit on the front row in front of the instructor, directly in front of the instructor, sort of like we're sitting here in every one of my classes. And all the rest of the students in class would be the second row on to the back of the room. And that's the way it was for my total time working on my doctorate at University of Virginia. That's the kind of stuff I had to go through there.
Wow.
To get that, see.
Wow.
Of course, I was fortunate because when I was, while I was at Virginia State College, when I left Fort Lee, Virginia, they sent me to Virginia State College as Associate Professor of Military Science and Tactics. So while I was there, I went on and got my master's degree while I was there. And then they needed a PMS down at Norfolk State University.
PMS is, what's that?
That was, let me see, that was 19...
No, what does PMS stand for?
Professor of Military Science and Tactics.
Okay.
Professor of Military Science and Tactics.
Okay.
And they asked the Professor of Military Science and Tactics, who was head of it at Virginia State, they said that, he said that, the general said, I was there when they were there, I want you, most outstanding officer here, the captain, to go in there and take that over. And so I was chosen the one to take that over, so I went down there as PMS. And so that was the way I climbed the ladder, right on down the line. So that's about, I guess, the essence of that part on the military. But while I was at A&T, like I say, I'm gonna get back to this Kappa business. When I got back to A&T.
After the war was over. After
the Marines.
Okay.
When I went back to A&T.
Right.
2 of my instructors, were Kappas, and one of the department chairmen that I was under, he was a Kappa.
Okay, I'm gonna pause right here and then change the batteries. I want you to start from that point. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we stopped when we were talking about A&T after you got back from the Marines from
right.
first deployment in World War II.
Back.
Okay.
And that's when I decided that I would go ahead and apply to get into Kappa, because 2 of my instructors, were Kappas.
Okay.
But the department chairman of the department that I was majoring in, name was W.L. Kennedy.
What department was that?
And that was in agriculture.
Okay.
So at that time, of course, they were pretty open, for graduates in ag to take over as county agents, in the different counties, around the United States, and also it was a pretty open area, sort of like medicine, I guess, is today. So that's why I majored in that at the time. But the thing about Dr. W.L. Kennedy, he was offered a job at University of North Carolina, and they didn't have any blacks there. It was in animal husbandry was his major. And that's what really kicked me off, you might say. Really got me interested in Kappa. He went there, you see, and they wanted the most outstanding graduate in animal husbandry to come there. So when he got there, that's when they found out he was black. So from there, they sent him to North Carolina A&T, but turned around and paid him salary, whatever they had offered him, and came to A&T. And when he did that, and he told us what he had to go through there, well, of course, that naturally impressed me, and I said, well, this is my starting point for Kappa, and I'm going to have to see what I can do with this Kappa. So I applied for Kappa, at that time. And There were 7 on our line, and I was the, you might say, the leader, if you whatever you want to call them at that time, you know, of those 7 on the line.
Just for the history's sake.
And then I was the pole marker.
Just for history's sake, do you remember all your line brothers' names?
I don't remember all of them. The Lorenzo Collins, he's passed now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. We had a. Let me see. What was the other guy's name? Let's see. We had a. I can't remember his name, but anyway.
Don't worry about it. We'll come back.
He was head of the. He had a nice job over at the college here in Washington, over at WTI.
Mm-hmm.
He had a position there. One of the other brothers ended up as president of West Virginia State, and that's when, of course, I ended up Dean College of Education or Human Ecology at University of D.C.
Okay.
Yeah, so each of us, I mean, all of them, you know, and then, of course, the other 2, along with Lorenzo Collins, they have passed already.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the only ones that I can call the names, you know, right at this time.
Okay.
But I had a pleasure, while I was there, to meet brothers like Brother Ash. I met about 5 or 6 of the founders, you know, during the time, I mean, I was there, you know, in school.
Okay.
And when right after I graduated, see. And so that's how I got my start, you see, then in Kappa. And so I served there as a Kappa. And this is what started me off in having to try to improve and get everything I can learn and move up in this world to be somebody, if you want to call that. And so that's how I got what started with all these different jobs and everything to moving.
Mm-hmm.
So when I left there, I went to Petersburg, Virginia. They had a school there that held the retardeds and the people, I mean, with IQs for 90 and below, and of course some were higher. And they called it the Petersburg Training School. And I went there, gave me this position in education. When I graduated, gave me this position there as the principal of that school. And of course, the head of the school was Dr. McAlpine, J.R. McAlpine. He was a psychiatrist, so he had a doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started off with them. And then, of course, from there is when I came in to Washington area, and I joined the U.S. Office of Education. And I was at the U.S. Office of Education, Sidney P. Marlin, who was head of the testing center in Princeton. He was the head of the Office of Education at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, naturally, you know, he was white. So he was my boss. So my position there was to head up special programs throughout the 10 regions in the country. There were 10 regions in the country, and I had to set up programs for all 10 regions, and also established with the founder of what they call College Without Walls concept at U.S. Office of Education.
Okay.
I was the founder of that.
Wow. Okay.
And so when this position came over vacant at the university, Dr. Marlin said, well, Jenkins, so you always said you wanted to, since you was in education, and that was your major, he says, down at University of Virginia, he says, why don't you go ahead and apply? He said, I'll write a recommendation for you. That's when I applied for the deanship, you see, at the University of D.C.
Okay.
So of those at the University of D.C., when they sent it in, I went over for my interview. I understand there were 72 persons that had applied. And the president told me at that time, said, you were in the top 3 candidates. And he says, if you can make it and come with us, he says, we will move you into number 1 if you can accept the job. That was on a Wednesday. And I said, well, how soon would I have to be here? He said, on Monday. He said, because we have accreditation coming up. And he said, we're working in the midst of accreditation right now. And he said that all the programs in the university has to be accredited.
Mm-hmm.